I've held off as long as I could.
I'm ready.
Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. We're going to talk about the Lycoming Mall today. It is for sale again. We're going to talk about its challenges. We're going to talk about our pipe dream scenarios, what we would like to do or what we would do. If money was no obstacle, what would we do at the Lycoming Mall? We're going to talk about that. We have a couple of other topics around the world that are trending. Some of them are a little hot topic-y. Am I allowed to use that?
Hot topic-y. Ooh, that's a pun of an old store that used to be in the mall.
Lycoming Mall.
It's no longer there.
That's right. So we will get into some of that too. Before we go back and forth at each other, Mark, how is your day going? How are you feeling?
I'm good because I'm off tonight. We have no basketball tonight. So after work today, I get to go home and I'm either going to more basketball games or I haven't decided yet. But I just want to warn. There's some activity going on next door today. There's things crashing and falling. There's some people that are a little angry. So if someone comes flying through the wall during the middle of the show, today would be the day.
I thought you were just kicking your desk underneath from our kind of like hot debates before the show. That's what I thought it was.
We did have some good debates before the show, but there's some people wound up next door. So, what are you going to do?
Roll. Let's dive into it. You can find out on NorthcentralPa.com. Melissa Farinish's article, the Lycoming Mall in Muncie Township, which is now down to 13 stores. You brought up what would have been a fun game is to try to guess the 13 stores that are still there.
But all you got to do is read the article.
Yeah, but you can go to NorthcentralPa.com and read the article for yourself to find out. It is set to go up for sheriff sale on May 6th for failure to pay bills. I believe it's mostly water and sewer. I believe they are almost 2 years overdue on it. So it will go up for sheriff sale. We've talked a lot about Amazon. We've talked a lot about like online shopping, all these different things. I still think there's this idea for people that it just never would have gotten to this point. And I think there's people that still believe that. Like, I think there's still people who believe that the mall was going to make it.
Probably. One of my first thoughts years ago was to turn it into like retirement. Move all the stores to one half and put like retirement housing in the other half.
Sure.
So you have people living there that then automatically shop at the stores. I know there's a sewer issue that there's only so much. They would have to put in a lot of sewer advancements.
Sure.
Because when it was put in, it wasn't designed to have, housing units and that much water facility.
But that's really a multiple unit issue, right? Like the issue is you're going to have multiple units stacked on top of each other, kind of like in a row.
Right.
And that would be the challenge, is that infrastructure and what to do with the sewage and the water and everything.
So that would be one. But we don't know. I mean, people have talked everything from Amazon warehouse, or not necessarily a warehouse, but a distribution center.
Yep.
Which it seems like that's the way the world's going. That when you go on Amazon now at work, you buy something,
right?
But then you you can check to see if it's there, you can hold it, or they can hold it. You can go pick it up on your way home from work.
Let's backpedal for a second, because there's things about the mall that, like, you and I've had brief conversations about this, but we've never like really dove into it. I have said before, the actual ring of the mall, so like the outer loop, is very much alive.
So, yes.
So
Sam's Club.
Oh, Sam's Club, Tractor Supply is slammed. If you drive by Big Lots at the right time of day, it is packed. So like the loop itself.
Well, is Best Buy going under?
That I don't know.
I heard Best Buy's in trouble.
Okay. That's the electronics. I could see that. I don't know for sure if that's true.
Do you remember back when Circuit City was there too?
Yes. Yeah. But the new Napa store just went in at the end. I'm a huge Ollie's fan. Like, I love Ollie's. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The old Toy Story.
You're
not a huge Ollie's fan?
I've never been inside.
Love the Ollie's, especially like the ones that are further. This one's still kind of doesn't have as much of a selection, but the ones down south are really, really good. Like Lower State Ollie's are legit. The movie theater seems to be doing okay. It's the outer loop is fine, which to me makes the location very unique, because everything internally is dying. It's almost like an old city, right? Like the inner city is kind of decaying, but then you have these like suburbs and the things around it. Like you have these stores and things around this loop that are absolutely thriving. And so I think that makes the location interesting. Like, depending on what somebody wanted to do with it, it's not like it's a completely dead zone.
No. And what's fascinating is that over where Target is, whatever that that shopping center's called, is booming because all the, Dick's moved there, Old Navy moved there.
Right.
There's another one, Shoe Depot. I think there were 4 stores that left the mall that moved there. And we would think, well, especially in winter, and we're knowing this winter when you go Christmas shopping, it's a pain because it's cold outside.
Sure.
And when you go from store to store, you got to go outside. And that was the whole thing of the indoor mall, that you could, you stay warm. But you have to heat the mall. You have to cool the mall.
Sure.
And I can only imagine what the utilities are for a store like Dick's anyway, that is huge. So now, not only do you have to pay for your own space, but you have to pay for the common area.
Yeah.
And that gets costly.
You got to pay for the fountain to run.
I love the fountains. I love the fountains. The fountains haven't been there in 100 years.
You got to make sure the fountains are. Maybe was the beginning of the end. That should have been the first sign.
Are you old enough to remember the fountain?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every mall had a fountain.
No, they were everywhere.
No, I know. Yes.
When it started, they used to have the furniture in the hall to sit on.
Yeah.
They not a bench. They had big, round plastic things.
Okay.
And they were like these. It was orange and it was brown and they were just big, round plastic. Like, just go sit on it.
Yep.
I wonder how many old people remember that.
I remember it.
No, you don't.
I do remember this. Why don't you think I remember this?
Because you're a kid.
I'm young, but I'm not a kid. So that whole aspect is surprising me. Here's the other 2 parts of it. Like, as far as just the area, like that section, Target and Sam's Club are just monsters. And so as long as Sam's Club and Target are doing their thing, I just think there's always going to be opportunity around that loop and around that development up there, because there's just going to be traffic. There just is. There's no doubt about it. The other sneaky one too is Country Cupboard. Like, people will go miles out of their way.
Cupboard.
Sorry, Cracker Barrel. Sorry about this. People will go miles out of their way to go to Cracker Barrel.
Absolutely.
And so I just look at those things and I think to myself, like, the traffic isn't going anywhere.
Correct.
So there is opportunity for this building, for these places. It's just a matter of, like, who figures it out. Like, what is the final solution to this? You had mentioned the nursing homes or the retirement homes.
Right.
What was the other one that you had just said?
We talked about Amazon, not a warehouse, but like a pickup center, whatever. The other one that everyone throws out, and we talked about before, is a casino.
Yeah. Is that your pipe dream? Like, is that like your number? Like, if you got to pick what would happen,
I think the casino is the easiest one, because when you go to a casino, it's huge.
Yeah.
And the mall is already huge.
Right.
So they wouldn't lack for space. It's just about the water facilities. Like, do they have enough
to handle
the tour? I don't know how many tours. Like, I'm trying to think of Mohegan Sun, because I've been there a handful of times.
Sure.
But that's the question. But yes, it would be. And the other thing, when you put in, now I don't know, like, once upon a time they talked about a sports book. Now that everyone has a sports book on their phone if they want it.
I still think people would go.
Oh,
I think there's something. It's like a bar. Like, everyone can take alcohol home, but they're like, people still go to bars.
No, I'm with you.
And I think sports books are the same way. Like, everyone can do it on their phone, but like, there's something about being in the room and the energy. And
the last time I was in Vegas, and I tell this story, I was in, and I've only been to Vegas 3 times, so I should probably think maybe it wasn't the last time, but it doesn't matter to the story. We're sitting, and it's during college basketball season, and we're watching, and there's some girl there who had money on, like, Wisconsin Green Bay because she was an alum.
Okay.
So of all the people sitting in the sports book, and I was at the Hard Rock, of all the people sitting in the sports book, there's one person that cared about the Wisconsin Green Bay game. And there's 100 TVs on the wall.
Right.
And it's one. And she's rooting for him. And she's rooting. And it was like, by the time it came down to the end, and she only had him like something bizarre, like for the first half. They were like +3 for the first half.
Sure.
And they're winning, and it's this, and she's right. And she might have had $10 on the game for all we knew, but she was invested. And it got down, and it was like they hit a 3, and now it looked close, and she's winning the whole time. And literally, whoever they were playing against had one last possession before halftime. And if they scored, she lost, and if they missed, she won. And I'm telling you, everyone in the whole place was riding with her.
Sure.
And we didn't care.
Yeah.
We had but she was rooting so hard that everybody's rooting for her, and they scored. Yeah. And there was just like this collective groan, and she was crushed. And again, who knows? She may have lost $1,000.
Sure.
She may have lost 10.
Yeah.
But you're right. The entire room was riveted on this one game.
Right.
Rooting for some girl we don't even know, but just because she was so into it.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun.
And there's sneaky ones too, like horse racing, stuff like that. There are people who consistently do this stuff like weekend after weekend that you just don't realize until like you have a sports book nearby. So I'm with you. That to me, that is the most fun. Like it's the one where like just somewhere else to go and something to do. This one's good before I tell you my pipe dream for it. Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now music video. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Had to be peak mall culture. I also wouldn't be shocked to find out Mark is somewhere in that video.
I listen, I love Tiffany.
I loved Tiffany.
I still do. Still do. Always. She was just in the news lately. She told, I guess she was doing a concert somewhere.
Okay.
And she didn't sound good. I guess her voice didn't sound good. And she basically told the crowd to go F themselves, like right in the middle.
That's rough.
It was like within the last 3 months.
So same with mall culture. She has fallen off a little bit as well.
Apparently.
Mike says amusement park like Hershey Park would be awesome. There are like arcade style or like indoor amusement parks. Have you seen these? Like Vegas has them where they have like the not the floaters that go across the top. What am I thinking of? The rope and you latch on and you go across. Why can't I think of the word for this?
The zip line.
Yes, the zip line. Like they do have these funky,
the floaters.
I couldn't for the life of me. I couldn't think. All I could picture was people gliding across the top of the building. They do have like these unique, like half amusement park, half arcade style, like indoor theme parks now.
Well, this is what I think. And I know like in Wilkes-Barre, but the population in Wilkes-Barre is so much bigger than it is here. So. Like, do we need a Mohegan Sun with all these? No. But again, if you took there's still 13 viable stores. Right. And if you took half the mall and made it a casino.
Right.
And you took the other half of the mall and left the stores there, those stores would thrive.
Oh, sure.
Because there'd be so much traffic there. And then you'd always have half of it full.
Yeah.
So that's the thought.
The catch here is the scenarios that you just gave, there would have to be like a hotel involved. There would have to be some sort of like livable units. Don't you think so? Like when you go to these casinos and you go to these like indoor parks, there's always a hotel or a motel worked within the infrastructure.
Is there?
Oh my gosh, there has to be.
Did Mohegan have a hotel for it? Does might it now. I don't think it did to start.
Okay. Because see, I think that's the part of it, because that's in that case, like when you go to these luxury like rentals and these hotels and all this stuff, there's always like worked in jewelry stores and chocolate shops and like all this stuff. And to your point, they thrive there.
Yes.
And so I think that is the catch. Like if you could somehow implement that in as well, like you would be thriving in it.
But don't get me wrong. And see, that's the other thing. And I don't know, like an Amazon, like I can only imagine how big an Amazon warehouse is.
Sure.
But here, if it wasn't a warehouse, if it was like a pickup center, maybe it would be both.
Sure.
But that's the thing in my thinking. There's not going to be one entity that needs the whole space. You think it's
going to be multiple.
If you could figure out how to turn half of it into something, you could leave enough stores in the other half. And if the half that you came up with something was thriving, then the stores would make money off of that.
Here's where I was wrong. Like when I would talk about this stuff for the last couple of years, I always said the stores that had outside access, so your Dick's, your Burlington, like stuff like that, I said they were going nowhere. Because I truly believed, because the traffic of the loop was still there, because of Sam's Club and Tractor Supply and all these different things, I was like, if you have immediate access from the outside, you're fine. And I was wrong. Like that wasn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, I think one of the things that also you just don't. I mean, we've seen this with old staple industries that like we're not going anywhere. If you've ever, not to tangent, you've seen the documentary of the guy who founded Netflix first went to Blockbuster.
Yeah,
and tried to partner.
Yeah,
and Blockbuster told him to go pound sand, and then he ran him out of business essentially. So you would think that the mall and the movie theater should have worked better in conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the aspects when I lived in Maryland, there was one of them. It was a Ruby Tuesdays or a TGI Fridays or something that was in the mall, but it had an outside entrance.
Right.
So you could go eat and then you could go to the movies, or you could go to the movies and then you could go eat. And the mall had its own hours, but Fridays or Ruby Tuesdays or whatever it was open till midnight or was open till 1. So it was its own little entity. And they never really did that down by the mall.
Yeah.
There was never that conjunction of like, here, you're going to go to eat unless it was McDonald's.
Yeah.
And when you get an older crowd, that's why I think the movie theaters.
When Friendly's was out, I was done too.
Well, yes, but Friendly's didn't have an outside entrance.
It didn't.
Friendly's, you had to be in when the mall closed. Friendly's was closed.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. It just kind of changed. And for adults, it's one of the reasons that I think the movie theater in downtown Williamsport will, as long as movie theaters survive, I think it'll survive, because there's so many places you can go to eat or just to get a drink beforehand.
Right.
And then go to the movies.
Okay. Can I pitch you my pipe dream?
Yes.
Okay. So this is, and listen.
I think I've heard this pipe dream
I think
before.
we might have talked about this before. I have said by far the most fun one is like the casino, the indoor theme park that someone had mentioned. Like those are certainly more fun. The warehouses and the retirement homes and stuff like that, it might it would create jobs. Practical. It would bring in, it's practical, but it's not like in your day-to-day life, it's not
exciting.
It's not exciting. It's not a lot of fun. You yourself are probably not going to walk through there unless that's your employment, right? Unless you work there. Okay. Here's my pitch for you, and just bear with me. And again, this is a pipe dream. This will never, ever happen, but I truly believe it could work if somebody wanted to make it happen. They'd obviously have to figure out the sewage, which you already mentioned in the water. But again, it's a pipe dream, so we're going to set all of that aside for a second. I truly believe the Lycoming Mall could have changed higher education and how people viewed the college campus experience. When I think back to the things that drove me nuts about college, here's just some simple ones I wrote down. You know what really sucks about college?
Class.
Parking. Parking is awful at college. There's never enough places to park. You always have to walk a mile to wherever you're trying to get to. There would never be an issue with parking if you turned the Lycoming Mall into a higher ed, if it was a college or a university, ever. There's enough parking there for every single student, faculty, visitor, whoever it may be. Fair?
Yes.
The other thing that sucks is walking to class. It's awful. Walking to class when it's raining or it's snowy or whatever it is. And listen, you're not on camp, like you're not going to class during the 3 months that it's the nicest time of the year. Like in the Northeast, it sucks having to walk to class during the fall and the winter. It's awful. How many kids just don't go to class because there's 6 inches of snow when they wake up in the morning?
Okay. Finish your thought. How often in college it's been a brutal winter. How often has there been 6 inches of snow?
Well, it depends. In Northeast Pennsylvania, you're rolling the dice every winter. Are you implying that, like, in Pennsylvania it doesn't snow? Like, what are you trying to say?
We have some bad winters.
Yes.
I was in college. What year did it flood? 93.
So we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back.
I'm saying it was a brutal winter one year that I was in college. But we'll have winter. Like last winter was very mild. More winters are mild than not.
You're looking at the negative side of this. You can't tell me that attendance wouldn't go up if kids could walk to their class through the mall rather than having to walk across the college campus.
No, I don't think it would.
College attendance would go up.
I think
class attendance would go up.
The only bad weather, and when you talk about bad weather, my daughter was home for 4 weeks.
I cannot believe this is the thing you're fighting me on.
For December or January.
Here, let me
She wasn't even walking to class because she was home.
I'll simplify this for you. Does it suck walking in the rain? Is it fun to walk in the rain?
How often does it rain?
Yes or no? Yes or no? Is it fun to walk in the rain?
No.
There you go. All right. You would never have to walk to class in the rain.
But is it fun?
You would never have to walk to class in the snow.
Okay, let me ask you this.
You would never have to walk. The elements of weather would never deter you from improving yourself or bettering yourself in the college classroom.
Let me ask you this. Is it fun to walk to class as a guy when it's really warm out? And the girls, have you been around college age girls? They don't wear any clothes anymore.
Slow down. it's always going to be fun because
now they dress differently.
You don't think see, this is your
when the sun's out
I can't
and
do
it's
this.
they want sun.
You're right. It's a horrible idea. Forget it. Here we go. Next topic. What are we doing?
I don't think walking to class to avoid the weather is good.
You don't think that's a big deal?
I think when it's nice, people want to be outside.
If you're listening to the show, please comment whether or not you ever skipped class because it was raining, snowy, or
that's
cold.
Not fair.
That's I'm just saying. It literally deters people from doing the thing they're paying to go do.
Well, yeah, and how many people skip class because they were too hungover to go?
Absolutely.
There's lots of reasons people skip class.
I bet you.
I had a roommate that skipped all kinds of classes for no reason. Once because his parents called and woke him up.
Yeah, but
he was like, "I'll show them. I'm going back to bed."
Those people probably don't belong there. So that's
really
my
smart. He did.
So the first one is parking. Second one is walking to class. Third one, lack of campus community. There are a lot of campuses where there's not a defined area of this is the campus, this is college, we're all here together. And because of the loop and because of the way the building is, there would be this sense of community. It doesn't mean people wouldn't leave or venture off. I'm not saying that. But there would be this idea of this is the campus and you're in this loop, and within this loop is our community and this is what we're doing. Now, again, you'd have to, sewage, and you'd have to figure out the rooms and everything else. But you could have a very simple system where the four main pillars, so what used to be Bonton, you make them into your dorms, you make them into your things, and then your classrooms would have been where the stores are and everything else, and you still could have kept your McDonald's or your different things, whatever college students would want to pay for, whatever business would be beneficial to be around college-level students. It's right there for you in that environment. The movie theaters across the loop. Sam's Club for your bulk supplies is across the loop. You have all these advantages. You could have completely transformed the way a college campus is viewed or the secondary education experience. The things that come to mind for me that drove me nuts. I hated parking on campus. I hated walking on campus, and I hated the lack of college community sometimes because it wasn't a set campus. It wasn't this, and some campuses are really good at that. If you've ever been to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or Misericordia is pretty good at that. Once you're there, you're on campus. It has a campus vibe to it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these campuses, that's not the case. It's more of a town feel. It's more of so it would have this finite, closer college community vibe than your normal.
I do get what you're saying about some places feel when I was at Susquehanna. Have you ever been on Susquehanna's
Yes.
It's tucked in the corner of Selinsgrove. Yes. And when you're on campus, you feel like there's nobody else around.
Correct.
I think that, and believe me, I come a lot because I have grass allergies, and it's so part of the year is annoying for me. But did you ever see the line in Big Bang when Sheldon Cooper, when they're like, Sheldon, let's go out and throw a Frisbee?
Yep.
And he's like, we've spent our whole eternity trying to perfect inside. We have air conditioning, we have heating, we have television, we have internet. Now that we've perfected inside, why does everyone want to keep going outside? But I think there's a natural, when the sun's out, we want to be outside.
You can still go outside.
I think in March, April, May, September, October, November, people like walking to class outside when the weather's nice.
I don't disagree with that at all. And I still think there is they can still go outside. I'm not saying they have to stay in the building. But I'm just saying, the things, when I look back and I think to myself, what were the things that, because I loved my college experience. There were very few times where I was oh, this is a drag. I hated trying to find parking. Parking on college campuses is a nightmare. And I don't care what college campus you're on. It is a nightmare trying to find places to park on a college campus. This would all but eliminate that. You would never have to worry about parking if that was a college campus, ever.
No, I agree with that. And this is what I'm seeing. That you were lazy in college because your complaints are about parking and walking to class.
Correct.
So therefore, you never walked to class. You always wanted to drive. Correct. And you were complaining that you didn't have any place to park.
I also lived off campus. In this scenario,
that's different.
You wouldn't really be able to, in this scenario, you wouldn't be able to live in town. You'd almost have to commute, or you would be
on campus.
Campus.
Now, because see, at Susquehanna, there wasn't real parking, but there was no need. We just walked to every class.
Yeah.
But Susquehanna's a small, it's not nearly as big as a Penn State, where sometimes you have long walks and you have.
Sure.
But it's still.
I was told, because I had obviously, I think we all know people or have friends who went to Penn State and were on campus. I was told, I think it was my cousin one time was telling me that like there were like she had 25-minute, 30-minute walks from like her
from one
to like to get to her class.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. What was your longest walk at Susquehanna? 5?
Yeah. No, it was longer than that, but
Okay.
10.
Okay.
Like if you were going like corner to corner and
yeah. I mean, a 30-minute walk to class, that's your exercise for
like
the day.
I remember showing up at
Based
class
off
one
of
time.
like government standards, that like you're done for the
day
of the chart. Yeah.
I remember showing up at class one time and I forgot something, and I remember sitting there and class was going to start in 5 minutes. I was like, should I go back to my dorm and get it?
Trying to decide if you should.
And then I'm like, okay, if I go back, I'll probably be 10 minutes late. Yeah, I'll just go.
Yeah.
And because it's that close. But no, I do. It depend. I'm sure there are regions where, like in Minnesota, I'm sure it matters, which is probably why the Mall of America is in Minnesota, because it's indoors and people need to be indoors more.
Sure.
I still think here we get enough nice weather. You know, we get a lot of times we get nice weather right up till Thanksgiving.
Yeah, sometimes we don't.
And I'm with you. The more I listen to this, the more I think you're just a baby.
Here's the last thing I wrote down too. We wouldn't need a gym because we would need like a workout center, but we wouldn't need an arena or a gym because we would be an e-gaming university.
Okay, you're onto something.
Yep.
I mean, I was thinking while you're talking about this and being totally serious, how many places, because malls are going to change. You know, the Lycoming Mall, there's lots of them that are already abandoned.
Yeah.
Is it fiscally responsible to take like in our area, if like say Muncie, Hughesville, Montgomery wanted to merge into a high school?
Sure.
Could you all go into this because there's so much space already?
Right. How many do you think, would that be a 6A school?
It'd be big.
Okay.
Hughesville's, Muncie, maybe not 6A.
Okay.
Yeah, but it'd be big. I mean,
yeah.
But
the question is, what would be the furthest commute for a kid?
Because I mean, Montgomery's
30,
a little
35.
bit of a scoot, you know, and then you look at Montoursville's on the other side. So when you get to spending millions,
you could send Montoursville.
You could. And when you get to spending millions and millions on, you know, building new schools or refurbishing old schools or things like that, the question is, you know, and then you cut down on so much. And again, as we're having teacher shortages.
Someone said, can you imagine working with the school boards to try to piece that together, figure that out?
No, but again, you know, like with your overhead, you'd only need, you'd have one. How many principals does Williamsport have? They just have one and then multiple assistants?
I'm not sure. But a lot of that has shifted. Like the last 5, 10, 15 years, administrations and the way they're built and the number of administrators has shifted so much.
But when you just think, instead of having, like, if they merged those 3 or 4, whatever, instead of having 4 superintendents, you have 1. Instead of having 4 head principals, you have 1. Right. You might have to have multiple assistant principals, but, you know, there's overhead like that would be cut down immensely.
I think what you're saying in school-wise makes a ton of sense. The cost of living, the outside effects outside of the building is where you run into trouble. Just the individual family driving to and from. I mean, you would have to have a hell of a bus system. Like Southern Tioga goes through it right now.
Yeah.
Because they have to offer transportation to the students depending on what extracurricular activity is at which building. And I mean, that cost, the outside of building cost, I would be curious to see.
And it would, I'm not saying it would ever happen here because it wouldn't. Yeah. But as you're saying, as these old buildings are sitting here, is there a way we can do it for higher education? I would think sooner or later some places try it.
Sure.
Because it's already built.
Yeah.
Just because.
Oh, it's done. The main concept of the building is completely finished. It's done. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be maintained or maybe fixed
renovated,
up a bit,
but yes.
But I mean, the main structure is there. I mean, the storage, what is the storage unit place that's put in there now? I've never remembered the name of it.
I know what you mean. It's down at the Macy's.
Yes. I mean, I felt like that was up and done in months. Like it's not like it took long for that to. And granted, it's storage units, but still, like you still have to go in and renovate it and change it up.
I'm with you.
So I'm with you. It'll be interesting. This is good. Shannon said it was 63 degrees out on Christmas Day 2015. So there we go.
You have this for a guy from the northern tier where you're almost in Canada, and your fear of weather.
It's not.
First of all, you're a farm kid.
Okay.
And second of all, you're from the northern tier. You should be tougher than this.
I'm pro comfort. So in all aspects. So what I mean by that is like people are like lazy, lazy, lazy. But a lot of times like my girlfriend will be like, should I wear this or should I wear that? And the first thing I'll say is which one's more comfortable. Because it's like, because why put yourself through the rigors of something that doesn't there? So like put on the pants that are more comfortable. Like it's that. So all I'm saying is like, if we're designing secondary ed or we're designing something where like you have to go to class or you have to go here, you have to go there, shouldn't the whole concept be like you want people to want to go? Like you want people to have ease of access. Everything we design now, whether it's a website, a building, whatever we're using, ease of access is one of the main things that designers and engineers are thinking of. Because in order to get the full use of it, people have to find ease of access. It has to be easy to get to, easy to use, easy to figure out. And all I'm saying is that like in this concept of higher ed, the simplicity of getting to these classrooms and getting this stuff is way better than your basic college campus structure right now. That's all. I don't think it's lazy. I think it's just ease of access.
No, I don't think I said it's lazy. I think I said you were lazy.
Nah, that's fine. That's okay.
Well, I should have known when you said you like to watch TV wrapped up in a blankie. I should have known right then and there.
I'm pro blanket.
You told me.
I can't believe you're not pro blanket.
You know what I'm pro blanket? When I'm cold.
That's it.
But not like when I sit down to watch TV, I look for the remotes and that's it.
And I don't look for a blanket.
No, I don't.
I think you're in the minority there. I think most people are pro blanket.
Men?
What do you mean?
I think most women are pro blanket.
You don't think guys?
I don't think guys sit down.
Really? You don't think guys use like throw blankets like over the top of the couch?
No.
Really?
I don't.
You don't think so?
I think if you walk in, I say walk in on your buddy. If you show up at your buddy's house and he's watching the game, I don't think he's curled up in a blanket.
Really?
No,
you don't think so?
No, I do not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Because he knows you're coming over?
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm the Neanderthal, but I just don't see it.
Does Jimmy use blankets?
No.
Jimmy doesn't use any blankets. What about your daughters? Do they use blankets? Here we go. John says no. John says no blankets.
I'm with him.
You might be onto something. I'm pro team blanket all the way.
No, I don't.
Yep.
If I'm cold, that's it. Yeah. But even like, I mean, when I take a nap on the couch, I don't have a blanket.
Oh, have to have a blanket.
No, I just
something. I like this.
Once you go horizontal,
if I don't have a blanket, I will sacrifice the pillow under my head to have it on top of my feet on the other end of the couch. Like if there's one pillow, couch, no blanket,
so the pillow now becomes the blanket.
No pillow under my head, pillow over top of the feet at the end of the couch. Yeah.
You are such a manly
You don't do
man.
that. You don't do that at all.
Well, see, on the way our couch is, it's just one of my head goes on the armrest, and it's like the perfect. So
Vicky brings up a good point. Depends how warm heat is set at. I like the house cooler. I would prefer to walk around in a hoodie than to just have like a t-shirt on and have the house be like warmer. I sleep better when it's colder too. Do you sleep better when it's colder?
Oh, I think everybody does.
Okay.
I was thinking about that. Well, to touch on this first, if I touch the thermostat twice a year, it's plenty. Like I just don't care. And one of the things when I was younger, I wanted to train myself to like not care and not be that sensitive to things. Okay. So I will never touch a thermostat. I was thinking climbing into bed as we were talking about simple winter pleasures. Like there is something about climbing into bed when you're cold and it's a cold room. Mm-hmm. And I know you can artificially create it with air conditioning in the summer and stuff, but there's something about climbing into bed in February when you know it's 17 degrees outside and it's cold and you're cold and you get that. You can't replicate that in July.
No, that's very manly. Mike Meyer, more places to eat, bring people to shop, cheaper lease, keep shops. I do know, Mike, that they have done some of these leases, and I might be putting stuff on blast. Some of these leases are insanely cheap right now. So that is not the issue for whether or not stores are staying or leaving. I know that some of these places are staying for breadcrumbs in that mall right now. That's part of the reason some of them like can't leave, is because the lease is so cheap that to go somewhere else almost isn't beneficial.
Well, I was going to say, so, and this just to show my ignorance of how this kind of stuff works. So it goes to sheriff's sale. There's a number.
Okay.
Say the number's, $250,000.
Okay.
So somebody comes in, so it doesn't even have to be, whatever. Some business conglomerate comes in and says, we bought it.
Sure.
We own it now.
Sure.
Like, won't it still function now as long as they're paying the sewage and so you can get creative with the kind of stores that come in, with the cheap leases that they come in. So somebody, like, because this guy paid millions to get it, or this company, Cohen or whatever it was. But the next guy, his nut to cover it is probably going to be so small, his or her.
Right. That to make it work.
That it can work. You can get stores in there for ridiculously cheap. You can do creative things. I don't know. I still think the only way because it's so massive and because so much of society's gone online, unless it does become something like a college or an indoor, but to make half of it, keep half of it as malls, brick and mortar stores, and the other half as something.
Right.
I think we're onto something. Because you are right. If you've been to a casino, when I was just in Atlantic City with a buddy of mine, we saw Guns N' Roses at the Hard Rock, and when you walk around these places, there are jewelry stores. There's fancy chocolate, but there's all kinds of places for people to shop while people gamble. Yep. And so this would have it, just it would just be laid out differently, but it's all there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Mary agrees with you. It should be a senior living campus, apartments, cafeteria, nurse, doctor's office, all inside and on mostly level ground.
And it is the issue with that, because I did bring this up. My father pointed this out. Okay. One of the issues with that is, generally speaking, where people live, they want to have windows.
Yes. So
it would be hard to have every unit have windows to the outside. So that would be a downfall, which is fair. The other aspect is just making sure you can make the plumbing work.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my first thought way back when.
That was interesting. Any final thoughts on it before we go to that?
I mean, unfortunately, what I think is going to happen is it's going to get leveled. Because it'll probably just dilapidate, and someone will buy it for something. Sooner or later, someone else is going to own it, and they're going to turn in. That's what I assume is going to happen. And as we talk about memories, like it's not like they're like, oh my gosh, the mall was a place that everyone went. Sure. It'll be sad for the area when it's gone.
I think for this area, yes, more so than other areas.
Yes.
The other thing, because I keep hearing people say, like, why doesn't a hospital take it over? Why doesn't from my understanding, especially with like these larger conglomerate hospitals, the whole game for them is to essentially be in debt, to have it on the books, pay it off. And if you're going to do that, you would rather be in debt for something brand new than be in debt for something that is 30, 40, 50. How old is the mall?
It was early 80s, I want to say. Late 70s.
Yeah. Okay. John asked a great question. Who gets the arch? That is a fantastic question.
Okay. That is a good question. 30 years from now, is it just whatever it is and the arch is still there?
You could call it like the Arch Retirement Home.
You could call it whatever. That's one of the things, because when we go, and a lot of times I'm in real estate, when we go in old houses that have converted to gas, the oil tank is still in the basement because it's such a hassle. You got to cut it apart and be messy. Getting rid of the oil tank isn't worth the hassle. So they just unhook it and leave it like in the basement in the corner. And they're like, that's the old relic of the oil tank. But would getting rid of the arch be more hassle than it's worth?
Oh, only because what would be its functionality after you get rid of it?
Right. It's in pieces.
As quoted, I mean, it's nice to look at and it's neat, but as it's useless. Like it doesn't do anything. So the only way it becomes more useless is if you actually have to take the time and energy and money to take it down.
Take it apart.
No, so I can't imagine it's going to go anywhere.
So like 200 years from now, it can be overgrown with brush and it's like this ghost town, but there's this arch still there.
I just think the way, even if they level the mall, that loop is still alive.
Oh, the loop isn't going anywhere.
Something has to happen. Like, I don't know. I'm not sitting here claiming I know what it is. All I know is that, like, Sam's Club, Target, like Tractor Supply, like, there are things there that, like, if you were investing, like, if you were just looking at things that you would want to, like, put your money into, there's 3 or 4 things near that loop that are, like, as solid of guarantees as you could ask for. And so, like, it's not going anywhere. Like, the traffic's going to be there. The question is just, like, who figures it out?
Well, how about this? Now that you're thinking, here's my last thought. Why don't they make it just like the shopping center, the other one, and give every store an outdoor entrance?
So just invert it.
Invert it.
The other way. I mean, it's yes. I mean, that would make sense.
You could even, if you wanted to, you could take the roof off the middle part, make a courtyard.
Well, so one of the things that if you go like in Lancaster and Lehigh Valley area, promenades are a big thing now.
Okay.
And so it's exactly what you're talking about, where you have these lines of shops. There's like a court thing in the middle, a movie theater on the end of it. And it's kind of like indoor, outdoor. You can walk to everything within, 30 seconds, but you're outside, but there's stuff over top of you. Like, it's very, I don't even know the word I'm looking for.
No, I get it.
It's that indoor, outdoor type of feel. And that's what a lot of these like lower state places are doing.
That's the answer.
You think that's the answer?
That's it.
It's that simple.
Yep.
Well,
you need an outdoor
41 minutes
because I didn't think of it 41 minutes ago. We're thinking out loud here. It took me a while. You had to give me enough context clues, and I was focused on how big of a baby you were for a while.
Shannon brings up a good point that I thought of. When the mall was built is when all the shops in Williamsport left. That's probably true. I hadn't thought of that.
Well, yeah, downtown, because you might not remember this. Pine Street here was undrivable for a while. They shut it because they wanted to increase the downtown shopping, and they thought if they just created easier foot traffic, it would work. And then the mall went in, and that was the new glitzy thing, and stores down here just died. And then after a while, then they started coming back when TJ Maxx showed up and Kohl's showed up, and it was people realized, like, when we want to shop, we don't want to drive all the way down there.
No, it makes sense.
So they did, but it's always what's new and what's changing.
Heather, when I lived in Syracuse, there was an old mall that turned into an indoor car lot. So why doesn't, like, you could have 3 or 4 different companies that have their showrooms all within the thing? That's interesting.
Ooh.
Very interesting.
That is very interesting.
I wonder if there were some phone calls last night and today. Interesting. Barb, I like the senior living idea. Even a company like Rabbit Transit could locate in part of the old Sears building and use the garage.
Yes.
There you go.
Good thinking.
It's very, very true. All right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think now it is, are you willing to say, because I think I am, that it will never be a full-fledged mall again.
Yes.
Because I think even over the last couple of years, there were people still, I don't want to say clinging to it like it mattered to them, but I think if you said to them, like, gun to your head, like, will it be a mall? I think they would have said yes. Like, it'll figure it out. Like, it'll come back. And I think it's fair to say right now, like, I find that very hard to believe.
No, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you. But also the next owner, like I said, if the nut is so small that they can make it affordable to rent out stores, then maybe, they can.
I know. They're still competing with the online stuff. Because I agree with you, like, from a tenant standpoint, you're exactly right. They could outprice tenants, right? So that you come here, it's cheap enough, your bottom line will be higher. The problem, though, is that doesn't help these stores compete with the online market. That, I think, would be the struggle.
Yeah, I'm with you. The online is just.
Yeah, I like. I think it was Mike who said it. I think, and you kind of hinted at it too. I think not adding the Fridays or the Applebee's or like the Outbacks, like not adding, one or two or three of those to the building throughout like the 2000s probably really hurt it more than what we
I think so.
Because it just would have gave it life. It just would have been a place to go. I'll tell you what, if you could get a Chick-fil-A in there, that place would be back in 2 seconds. You're laughing, but I'm like semi-serious.
It wouldn't hurt. And I'll tell you another one that we've totally forgot to mention was when Hoopla's went out.
Yeah.
When it went from inside to outside. That certainly hurt. Because when I was a kid, and I know the world's different. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, the Fun Factory was just, $5 in the Fun Factory was like heaven. And your parents were just like, see ya. And, I remember when friends of mine, you'd call like, hey, my parents are going to the mall. You want to go to Fun Factory? And they would go and the kids would be in and you're playing whack-a-mole and Burger Time and all these old style. And back in the day, there were 2 arcades, one right by the movie theater, and then the Fun Factory came in. Okay. And then the Fun Factory became something else, Boardwalk Boulevard.
Yeah, and I remember it as Boardwalk.
And, but yeah, it was.
That was the thing.
That was a big deal.
Shannon still has the Fun Factory token.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think a buddy of mine just posted one that he was going through old stuff. He was going through a divorce and they were piling up and he was going through old stuff and he posted one and he wanted to redeem it. But and I'll tell you what, and it was busy. It was never not busy. It was fun in the Fun Factory back then. Oh,
I believe it. And that's the thing. I just want it to be like, I'm not anti the storage units. Like, I'm not saying like it shouldn't have happened or anything else. But like, I want there to be something that is social. Like, I want there to be something where like people are going to. I don't want it to just be a warehouse or a factory or storage units or.
No, I know.
I selfishly want it to be something where people congregate. And so all of the ideas that I favor that pop in my head have to do with that congregation of like, what could people do together? And so my fear is that that's not what's going to happen.
So what we can take from today's show is that you are the laziest, biggest baby of a social butterfly that the world knows.
Wait, say those things again.
Lazy.
Okay.
Baby.
Okay.
Social butterfly.
Yeah, but I think I'm a little, you and I've talked about this. I think I'm a little introverted. Like, I think
you are a weird combination of that. You do have an introvert. You're incredibly social for an introvert. And you're not like a super introvert, but on that side, there is that introverted side of you. But you're really social.
And I'm not saying this to make light or make fun or like, I have some like spectrum-y aspects to me that once you're around me enough times, you start to see them. You don't notice them at first, but once you're around me, I do have some very like OCD-ish, like kind of odd tics, introverted things. I've told you before, the only reason this works is because we're in this room and the door is closed and I can't see anybody that might be listening. That's the only reason.
Oh, I agree with that. That's the only reason I could do radio because I pretend to know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that about you're way smarter than you come off as like an aw shucks, really like but you're way smarter than you come off.
But most of it's useless.
Well, most of all of the things we know in life are useless.
That's probably true.
But yeah, you're way brighter than people would think. They would just be like, yeah, Jeff's a good guy. But
I appreciate that. You too. You're brighter than
that rings sincere. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like,
I mean, like you wrote a book and everything, but I mean,
you can download anything.
Download it. You can look up everything.
You just piece it together.
Wasn't it like 2 days ago? I was basically like memorization. What is memorization? Why is that impressive?
It is overrated. I'll say that.
I could find I found that man-eating lion story in 2 minutes, and people thought it was impressive to memorize.
You probably after that show, people probably went home who were like C students.
Yeah,
and they're
feeling really
Jeff's
good about
right.
themselves.
People thought I was dumb because I couldn't memorize. Who cares?
No.
I can just Google everything now.
Everything. You know what's funny is if you have because we're on a little bit of a tangent now. But if you have like a HVAC specialist or a plumber or an electrician, anybody, if if you have anybody in those fields like come to your place now, they like, don't get me wrong, they know their way around stuff, but they don't memorize any of it. Like it's all just like, oh, code this, and then they're going through and they're finding the code. Now, again, they know their way around it. They know what they're doing, what to do. They're safer, like all that stuff. But like, they don't have to memorize this stuff. Like it's all now like on a phone or like on a tablet, and like they look up what the error is and they like,
yeah.
So I don't know. Like all I'm saying is like, I think willingness and ambition and like the willingness to try and fail far exceeds memorization, which used to be the number one thing we tested for. Like your whole high school diploma, 85% of your high school diploma was like showing up on time and memorizing stuff.
I'm with you. Well, I might even told you this story. Emma, who used to work here full time and now just helps with us, who's one of the smarter people I've ever met.
Yes.
She's buying a house and I was her realtor and we were looking and like we would come up with things and we would go through. I was like, well, this roof is old and the roof would need replaced more sooner than later.
Yeah.
She's like, well, how much does it cost? And I'm kind of, well, the size, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, couldn't I just do it?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what, are you a roofer now? She goes, well, it's on YouTube. I could probably do it.
Yeah.
And there were multiple things and she's not a construction person.
Sure.
But there were multiple things. She's just smart.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's on YouTube. Couldn't I do it?
Yep.
And after a while, it's like, you probably could.
Yeah.
Because
I run into this and you might be too, and you might, well, with Jimmy, you might. However, it's funny because when I call my dad because like, I don't know how to do something. So I'll call him like probably like once a month. He'll get a call and I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? Or, hey, what would you do here? And so he thinks I like don't fix anything. Like there's nothing I fix. There's nothing, because that's the call he gets. But what he doesn't see is like me fixing the dryer in a day because I YouTubed 4 different videos, figured out what was wrong, took off the cover, replaced like the ring, like put it back on, reprogrammed it, and now the dryer works again. But he doesn't, like, nobody sees that, right? Because no one knows you get on YouTube and fix something. Right. So it is funny how, like, I think younger generations are way more functional with some of this stuff than what they get credit for, because the only time you ever hear about them doing it is when they couldn't find the YouTube video, or they couldn't fix it, or they couldn't. But there's dozens of things that like, they're solving and fixing and figuring out that just no one ever hears about.
Right. No, I am totally, and I think that generation and all generations to come are going to be more self-reliant.
Sure.
And less, they won't memorize anything.
It's amazing how little I memorize. You and I were talking about phone numbers. I know like 2 phone numbers.
Do you know your girlfriend?
I don't.
You don't know her phone number?
No, her and I, she gets, I laugh about it and then she kind of gets mad and then I apologize.
See, this is one of the things, and this is me as a dad, and you know, I always tell you to put your lid on your drink because you don't spill it. I know, I just noticed that, right when you said it. But like as a dad, one of the things, whenever I call my kids, I dial the number.
You were telling me this, which I think is very clever.
Because I want to make sure that if I lose my phone or if my phone's dead, that I can still get into, I can take your phone and call my kids.
Makes sense.
And I would bet you there's a lot of people who can't.
I know my parents' landline number because that was obviously
your landline. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know my sister's number, and I know no, because she switchers. I know my mom and my dad's, but that's because they are sequential. Did I use that word correctly?
Yes, you did. Very good.
They're sequential, so it's I know those ones, but literally those are the 4 phone numbers I know. I know my mom, my dad, mine, and my landline number back at my parents' house. I
know a lot.
I don't know my girlfriends. I don't know any of my friends. I do not know their phone numbers.
Now, I'm just thinking now, when I call my brother, either his landline or his cell phone, I just dial it because it's easier than scrolling. When I call my dad, I just dial it. When I call my mom, I just dial it. But intentionally with my kid, because all those had numbers that I knew before, like my brother's landline, my dad's got a cell phone now, but yes, with my kids, I intentionally dial them. And I wonder how many people know their kid's cell phone number without scrolling. Because like I just called you from getting lunch, and I don't know your number.
Here's why I think more do than not, and here's why I think that. I bet you some of them are sequential, like mine, and that will help. But the other thing too is they get the phone bill. And so I bet you they see the digits on the phone bill, and I bet you that helps.
That could be, because my kids are not sequential. My kids are all over the map.
Yes.
And I guess just because they got older at different ages, and one got a phone, and then 2 years later, another one got a phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, mine are not sequential. But no, that is a good point.
So I bet you and here's the other thing too, when they do, I could be wrong. If you have like the notifications come to your phone, so it's like so-and-so has used up this much data, or so-and-so has this, it tells you the number that is using the data.
No,
so I bet you there are parents that it says like 570 da 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 has used up 90% of their data, and then they have to look at it and they go, is that Sally or is that Tommy or is that, and I bet you they know because of those circumstances.
So here you go. Here's our, we'll try this in real life, and then we'll get off. Tonight before your game, I want you to take your phone. I want you to go up to the parents of your players, hand them your phone, and say, can you call your kid?
Yeah, I can try that.
And I wonder how many of them could do it.
I think it's higher than you think. You probably think it's lower than I think.
So like you think it's greater than 50%?
Oh, I think it's greater than 75.
Really? Yeah, okay, I wouldn't think it's that high.
I think it's higher than we think it is. Okay. Well, let me rephrase that. I think it's higher than
I think it is. You might be right.
Yeah. So it'd be a good one. All right.
So report back to me.
Anything else?
Yeah, you feel good about tonight? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like it's a cherry on top of the sundae. Like it's not, if you lose, the season isn't over. There's a lot of upside, not a lot of downside, which is not how I felt.
Jeff's team is in the league championship.
Which is not how I felt. Well, Loyal Sox basketball team is in the, not Jeff's team. Loyal Sox basketball is in the, I know.
Right, but okay.
Loyal Sox basketball is in the championship. I said to you yesterday, I didn't feel like there was a lot of upside to the game. That like it kind of, because tonight I feel differently because like there's a ton of upside. You're playing for a championship. If you don't win it, you're still in districts, you're still in states.
And so Lewisburg's really good. So if you lose, it's not like you lost to a bunch of
Lewisburg's very, very good.
They're really good.
And a credit to John Vajai because they have not been great the last 4 or 5 years before he came back. And this turnaround has been in like
they're pretty good.
8 months, 6 months, like
they're
turnaround.
Yeah, John knows what he's doing.
Yeah, oh yeah. And they're senior heavy. The Hernandez kid is such a hard worker. Their point guard, I always forget his name.
Cam
Thank you. Their point guard is fantastic in transition. They're very good basketball.
He's fast. Their point guard is super fast.
Yep, and they execute well, and they do a lot of things. I say this, you and I have talked to this. They respond incredibly well to critical coaching. And I say critical coaching not in a negative manner, but like they take criticism very well. Because there are some teams where if you correct them or you criticize them, you can see like the eyes roll and like that is not Lewisburg. Like Lewisburg's kids handle it incredibly well, and they understand.
This group certainly does.
Yes,
and they're trying.
They understand they're trying to win, and there's a reason they're being told this is what you need to do. And not every team is like that.
Because of Bucknell too. The community has a little bit of a hoity-toity feel to it. And it's a very academic, but the team is very not lazy. Like they play hard, they play fast. Yeah. Like they almost bring a real old-fashioned blue-collar approach to an area that's not, you wouldn't think of Lewisburg as a blue collar. You think
like
of very academic.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But
they play hard.
They play hard.
Hernandez kid plays.
They play hard.
Really, really hard. Here, real quick, before we go, someone just a little shout out for you. A Mile in Her Shoes. Excellent. There you go.
Look at
do you want to do a quick little plug? Find it on Amazon. Find it on
my book. I don't have a copy.
Go to your local bookstore and find A Mile in Her Shoes.
Do I? Oh, I do.
Do you really?
I have to take some more to Otto's because they sold out of Otto's.
Quick little plug.
So there they are. They're wrapped. Mile in Her Shoes.
Tilt it a little down, like towards
this.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
You can go to Amazon and buy it. You can go to Otto's as soon as I take these around the corner and take them to Otto's. Because the lady's like, hey, we need some more. So, yeah, it is excellent. Perfect. Yeah.
There you go.
It's excellent.
Good stuff.
I'll tell you what is weird too. I just read like part of a chapter again the other night. Like, I wonder how much writers go back and reread their stuff. because you like know the whole story. So why would you?
Sure.
But there was like one scene that I wanted to reread that I was proud. And like, I wonder if Stephen King's like, hey, I want to go read this chapter of something that he wrote. Or if they're just like, once it's done.
I can't read stuff multiple times because I know there are people that like have favorite books and they've read them like 2, 3, 4 dozen times.
Right.
I have books that I was enthralled by, like devoured them, and I never pick them up again because like I can't. Like,
Can you watch movies multiple times?
I can watch movies multiple times, but it's like they have to be spread. So for like a lot of times you'll bring up a movie and I'll be like, oh, I haven't watched that in like 5 years. I bet I'd enjoy it again.
Okay.
But I'm not somebody like I can't watch it. Now, the funny thing is TV shows, I'm the opposite. So a lot of times like with TV shows, if I'm really into it and like season 3 is coming out, I will go back and watch season 2 before 3 to like get back into it. So it's this weird, but books, I can't do it. I can't do the repetitive.
Even read them the first time.
The first time through, yeah. But books I struggle with. And I know people that like every summer, this is what they're going to, or like when they go to the beach, they're going to reread. And I'm just always impressed by it because I'm like, I can't do that.
But I mean, if you're a reader, it makes sense because I could watch, you know, how many times have I watched this movie? Before baseball season, as we're February, but it's coming. Mm-hmm. In March, I will watch The Natural again.
Yeah.
I will watch Field of Dreams again. I will watch Major League again.
Sure.
And it's, yes, there is a comfort to it, and you still laugh at the same parts.
Right.
So if you're a reader, I could see why, like once, I haven't read this book in a year or two. And if you're a reader, you've read 20 other books.
Right.
So it's just comfortable and it's pleasant. And you just,
I think part of it, I'm curious, like your opinion, this might be something we can ask Joe next week when he comes on, Joe Smith of North Central Cinema at NorthcentralPa.com. I've always, when I was younger, I could watch movies multiple times, but it was because you didn't have a choice. So what I mean by that is you had to go to the theater to see it. Then like after a year, you had to rent it. And once it was rented, like you had to watch it because you didn't.
Yeah, you're not dropping that 99 cents for nothing.
There you go. And so like you had to watch it. And then it was like, oh, this is on whatever. I better watch it now because I don't know if I'll see it again. Streaming now, I just kind of take for granted that. And so like once I've seen it, I'm like, I'll revisit it years from now and it'll be like brand new again. So I've lost that urgency to rewatch stuff. I just don't have it.
No, that's probably fair.
I really don't. The other thing too is there's so much to watch. And so now like for me, it's like this list and I'm kind of like, well, rather than rewatching that, I want to see what this is, or I've been told this is good. And there's just always something new now. And I don't know, when I was like a teenager, even in college, that wasn't the case.
I'm sure too, with people who read a lot of books, that there's a level of, like I watched The Italian Job the other night. Have you seen that movie?
Love it.
Okay. I'd seen it once.
Yep.
I remembered I liked it.
Yep.
I remembered the one dude that was in it. It was in Crank. What's his name? Whatever. Stratham. Yes. And I remember Mini Coopers.
Yep.
And that's all I remembered from the movie.
Okay.
But I knew I liked it.
Right.
So when I'm flipping through the channels, I was like, oh, let's do this again. Even though I know I've seen it.
Sure.
But in my 30-second recall, I can't even remember. There's like a bank heist. That's all I got. So I can imagine people with books. Yeah. If you read 30 books a year and you're like, oh, I remember reading this one and I remember liking it.
Yeah.
And I don't even really remember. I can tell you a couple things about it. So I'm sure that's part of it.
I'm assuming It's a Wonderful Life. Is that the movie you've seen the most times?
Yes.
Okay.
And you still pick out something new. I only watch it once a year, Christmas Eve. I won't watch it any other time.
Okay.
But I still pick out stuff that I've never seen before. It's crazy.
Yeah.
One of the ones that happens to me too is Back to the Future. I always find stuff in Back to the Future that I didn't see the first time, which you've never seen because it's an 80s movie, so you refuse to watch it.
I've seen Back to the Future. It's fine.
No. It's more than fine.
It's fine.
It is cinematic brilliance.
I've noticed like the only movies that I've seen like repetitively are comedies.
Yeah. And you still laugh.
I've seen Dumb and Dumber. I bet you I've seen Dumb and Dumber over 50 times. I bet you I watched Wedding Crashers over 50 times. Like comedies, it's just, I guess it's just different. But like dramas and actions and stuff like that, I just don't. I've seen it. I got to wait a couple of years and I'll watch it again.
I think with those, you just don't have to invest as much intellectually and focus into comedies.
Sure.
Like it's just lighter and easier. And when the joke comes up and you know this scene's coming up, and I've not seen Dumb and Dumber. I'll tell you a comedy that I've watched. I watch it once a year is Hot Tub Time Machine. And I laugh every time.
You love that movie.
I laugh every time.
We'll ask Joe about the Hot Tub
Time Machine.
We'll
see.
ask him about it. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Again, if you're interested in the sale of the Lycoming Mall coming up, you can go to NorthcentralPa.com and check out Melissa Fairnish's store.
Make an offer. They're taking offers.
Sheriff sale. Usually, right? Sheriff sale, you can typically get it lower than what you would. Yeah, look at that face. Yep, he's right.
If you want it.
If it's there for the taking.
You could buy the mall and City Hall all at the same time.
I can't. All right, are you good?
I'm serious.
I know you know. Like I know. That's why I said I can't do it. Like
that's
it.
Yep.
I don't know whether to laugh or smile or cry.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know what to do.
It's for sale. So I've had enough fun.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the show. We'll be back next week. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for enjoying the Midday Show.
If you enjoyed